Hey guys, welcome back. It's Brett Sikora here with our podcast. As we're building our Align brand, we're taking things to the next level. A very important piece of the puzzle is Darrell Bailey over here, who's done a lot of fun things in the world of real estate, specifically in the investment side of things. And we saw an opportunity to kind of work together, merge things together, play, and really make everything better, make everything bigger. And as I've mentioned in the past, I'm passionate about agents succeeding. That's really where I live. And I think Darrell shares that same passion, but he knows a lot about things that I don't know about. So that makes, the version 2.0 of myself super exciting. But I don't know who Darrell really is. Like, I don't know the let's take it back to where you're from, how you got into this, that sort of thing. So yeah, if wind it back as far as you want.
So first I want to say thanks very much for inviting me on the podcast. So I always make a joke that I'm from China originally and I just stumbled into the US. And so I'm from the UK originally. Up until the age of 12, my family migrated to the Caribbean. At the age of 18, I decided to go back to London by myself with £60 in my pocket and figure it out. Parents were very unhappy with me, thought it was a crazy idea. But really from the age of 10, I knew that I wanted to be a landlord. That was really the whole objective. So I remember getting on the plane, getting on a Thursday, getting a job by the Monday, getting to college on the Friday at the age of 18, and then selling my first house at the age of 19.
Nice.
So that's basically that focus in regards to as soon as I got to that legal age, I knew I had to get into property ownership.
Which, to me, as you're telling that story, your parents were right. You were crazy. That's a crazy thing to be doing at 18 years old. Was it? You glance over the 18 with 60 pounds in your pocket and go into selling the first home at 19. Was it tough? I mean, were you completely broke, or did it kind of click quickly?
No, I was one of those kids from the age of 10. I would say to you at Christmas, don't give me any money, Brett. Give me some money and I'll bring my bank book out. That's the time you have to go to the bank and put the money in and lodge it. So I was one of those kids that was shaken down every adult I could find.
Yep.
Don't buy me candy, don't buy me toys, give me the money. So when I got to the age of 17, I kind of had enough money because it was just really that I did paper rounds, I sold candy, every form of hustle as a kid I did it. I mowed grass, whatever it was.
Yep.
I just had to figure out how to get that first house. But my biggest experience at 18 was one of my mother's houses. We went through huge problems with being a landlord, tenant issues, not paying. And then we went through 2 years of not being able to sell a house. So I was the person that was responsible to pick out the agent, go through the process, fix the property up, figure it out. We went through about 7 agents, couldn't get the home sold until I actually had to sell it myself at the age of 19.
Got it.
So that's how I basically got into the business.
Now we're gonna do a little math here, but when you were 19, what year was that, so people can understand?
2099.
2099?
Yeah. No, it's 9. Sorry, what am I talking about? Crazy.
I'm like,
1999.
1999. Okay, cool. So yeah, no, that's good. That gives us an understanding of what market it was and everything like that too. And I know UK is obviously different than what's happening in the United States at any given time, but I'm sure there's similarity. Like I would imagine in 2007 when it wasn't fun here, it probably wasn't as much fun.
That's right.
And fun fact, you know that my first job as a realtor was with Foxtons?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, you were one of those fancy guys. Did you have the car as well?
So I got a job as a listing agent in 2007 with Foxtons. They gave me a laptop, everything. I started training on a Monday, and they filed for bankruptcy the Friday before and locked the doors in Monmouth County.
Oh, wow.
So that was the beginning. Is Foxtons still around in the UK?
I don't know now, but they completely changed the whole industry in the UK in regards to their branding. You'll go into their stores, it was like you can have a croissant, you can have wine. It was just like they were ahead of their time.
Right.
The only thing I saw in the US is that they were a lot cheaper, whereas in the UK, they were always nearly probably 30-50% more than every other agent. They were like luxury people.
That's interesting.
So their whole branding concept changed the way shop fronts. When you went in there was a bar. You can have a beer if you want to have a beer before you speak to your agent. So it was something that was ahead of the time, and they probably expanded too quickly. But definitely a phenomenal company.
Yeah, no, they even their training when I was about to get started was pretty. It seemed pretty. That they did the real estate team before a real estate team was a thing. It feels like they had the listing specialist, the buyer specialist, all of that. So 1999, you're 19 years old, you sold your first home. Where do you go from there?
It was a horrible experience after that. So I went to buy another home. And 1999, I remember being in college and my godmother said to me at the time, hey, apply for this apprenticeship with a company called Nortel Networks from Canada. Didn't know who they were, but they said that they'll pay me to go back to college and learn IT and telecoms. So I was like, cool. 10,000 applicants, never thought that I'd get the job. Went through about 6 rounds of interviews. I was selected out of 10,000 people. Out of 32 people they took on, I was one of the 32. They sponsored me for 3 years, fast track in regards to being a manager within the telecoms world. So back then, that's when we were all getting into this whole fiber optic, fast internet, but they were using us as kids, as guinea pigs to figure out what is WhatsApp going to be in the future. So they took us in to say, what is streaming going to be like? We didn't realize that that's what they were doing at the time.
Right.
But I had 2 psychiatrists. It was normal.
Right.
And they were profiling us where I had these big books every month that I had to go through with a psychiatrist in regards to how do you respond to this color? How do you get your TV on your phone? What would it look like? So they had to figure that out for customers like Verizon and these other customers to say, what would this be like fast forward now? So when I see the likes of Facebook and all these different things, we saw different kind of versions of that in 1999 where they were trying to figure it out. And what I got good at doing is that after I figured out that the guys that were coming into the parking lot were driving Bentleys and Ferraris, I was like, I want to figure out what he's doing.
Right.
So they said, become a contractor. And I'm like, how do you do that? So I jumped out of the company, got certified, became a contractor, and started doing that for investment banks.
Got it.
So jumped into networking, security networking. So I started off at Casino Bank, JP Morgan, Deutsche Bank would be my customer, whatever investment exchange internationally, the stock exchange in the US, basically I was involved in like protecting their security.
Got it.
So that's how I got into technology. And then while I was in that technology world with the traders, I was saying to the traders, hey, don't you want to buy real estate? So 1999, it took me 2003 to be able to buy my next house where I had to become a mortgage broker to do so. So I did a crazy thing, Brett, and I shouldn't even talk about this, but I did a crazy thing.
It's recorded.
Okay. So September 11th, high amounts of layoffs.
Yeah.
They laid off every single manager, everyone in my life, and they forgot about me in the office. And it was about 2 years of me roaming around the office thinking, do I buy a house? Do I not buy a house? So I took a contracting gig in India. The guy calls me 2 days before Christmas and said, if you can get to India, I'll pay you $180 an hour. And I promise that on your timesheet, you'll have at least 80 hours to 120 hours on your timesheet with overtime. Had no idea what the job was, Brett. I calculated by the time they'd figure out I don't know what I'm doing, I would have made enough money for my next down payment. And that's basically what I did. I went to India, went there from December to about February, got enough money over the weekend when you basically earn too much money tax-wise. I had to jump to Thailand and then come back. And on the plane, I was reading the Financial Times in business class, and I just bought a franchise. So they said the franchise is £50,000. I could become a mortgage broker. I could do car finance. I could do insurances. And that was my way in, where when I bought the American franchise, actually, they said to me, if you buy the franchise, you can become a mortgage broker and I can buy my next house. And that's what I basically did at 23.
I love that.
So crazy, but it was something where I just couldn't get loans.
Yeah.
I would go into the bank with cash, which was just completely stupid, but I'd go into the bank with cash and they were like, where are you getting this cash from? And I'd be like, well, why do you need to know? And then they were asking me about, do you have any credit? And I'm like, why would I have credit? I got cash. And I was completely ignorant to the whole world of how to build a profile. And since like 18, 19, up to the age of 22, I was just couldn't get a loan. I paid brokers. I did everything I could to try and buy another home.
Yep.
Just couldn't get a home. Couldn't get a mortgage.
It's funny. I saw Elon Musk tweeted and love him or hate him, wherever anybody stands with him. But he's obviously doing something right when it comes to building wealth and solving the world's, some of the world's problems. He was saying that it's interesting that an 18-year-old can take out $200,000 of debt for college, no questions asked, but can't get a $10,000 loan.
There you go.
It's just wild. But yeah, that's a perfect example. I owned my landscaping company in 2004, 2005, 7. I was 17, 18, 19 years old. I couldn't finance a lawnmower. I had good credit, but didn't have the depth to get approved for the application.
Yep.
And it was just so interesting to me that it's something it's so necessary to scale a business, if you're using debt in the right way or a real estate portfolio. And yet, I was just kind of handcuffed. So it's great that then you kind of you manipulated the system, I want to say. Like, you were like, wait, if I can't get it, I'm going to be the guy that writes it.
Yeah, but it was all accidental. It was out of frustration. It was out of I used to remember going home and saying to my parents, crying at the bank won't give me any money. And they would just look at me like, just figure it out. Just figure it out.
Yeah.
So when I bought the franchise, that was out of desperation. And I remember still being at the bank. And when I bought the franchise, I figured out, well, I can try and do mortgages for Brett, because he's a trader. He earns $1 million a year. Let me try and do mortgages for these guys.
Yeah.
Then I figured out that Brett earns $1 million, but he spends $3 million a year.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, what is this issue with these guys with bad debt? So I became specialized in subprime mortgages.
Okay.
I was earning enough money. What I was earning in a month, which I remember when I was in investment bank, I was on good money, but the lifestyle was expensive. The suits, the going out, all that kind of stuff, keeping up that kind of lifestyle. But what I do remember is that when I was doing subprime mortgages, because I had an IT background and finance was so prehistoric, they weren't even using spreadsheets. So I came in with the pivot tables and different spreadsheets, and I was able just to organize myself through systems.
Yep.
Then through that, I was able to buy into a mortgage company where I became one of the top mortgage guys in London at the time, which I didn't know. It was the banks that said, hey, the volume of mortgages that you're doing, you're one of the top guys, we're going to make you an underwriter. I said, make me an underwriter? Are you sure? So as soon as I figured out that they will give me the loan and then give me 25% additional on top of the loan, that was it, Brett. I just went out there like a spending spree, and I said to myself, if I can buy a home and get 25% of the value of the home back after I close it as an unsecured loan, that's it. I just need to buy as many properties as possible, cash flow, figure out the rest afterwards.
Yep.
So that was really my business model, where underwriting taught me in regards to that whole gap that I had, how to get financing.
Right.
And then what I used to do is really specialize in like small businesses, guys that got Dunkin' Donuts, car dealerships, entrepreneurs, self-employed contractors to get the mortgages. But I realized that Brett wasn't interested in buying lots of homes. Right. He wants to make money.
Yep.
So after that, I said, well, how many homes can I go to an agent and buy? When I was making offers through agencies, just wasn't getting my offer accepted. I'm a young kid in my 22, 23, 24, and just couldn't get offers accepted. And the same frustration I went through with the mortgage business, where I said, well, how do I get no one's not taking me seriously, I'm a young guy. So I bought into a real estate brokerage. So instead of learning how to become an agent and build an agency, I bought into 50% of a real estate brokerage that were doing quite well. I was a mortgage broker at the time, and that was my way of learning how to do the operations of real estate and doing our mortgages at the same time. And then once again, because I was good at systems and processes with them, I was able to not just take over the business, span off and build 2 other real estate companies from that situation. So September the 11th happened. People were losing their job. We got subprime mortgages. There was a time where if you gave me a name of your pet, I could get you the money within 24 hours. I had guys, I didn't even know what Lehman Brothers were at the time. I had GMAC from America, I had Merrill Lynch. They would just call me in the UK and say, Darrell, can you get rid of 20 million today? So that was hard to do. Where am I going to find $20 million worth of properties just like that?
Yeah.
So once again, I stumbled across a new build developer, and I was like, but how many properties do you have new builds to sell? And he was like, well, we've got a whole pipeline of 500 properties. I said, there you go. That's the new business now. Forget about normal houses. we're doing new construction.
Yep.
So what I was doing is basically securing the new construction plots before they were released. They would ask me for something like 5%. Because I was doing volume, it got to a stage where they stopped asking me for any deposits at all. I figured out that there's a 2-year pipeline in regards to they're building at least 200 units to even 1,000 units. I would secure 100 units.
Yep.
Figure out who I'm going to sell them to afterwards, but I always knew that every time they released another phase, the price would go up by 20%. So I no longer needed to do mortgages. I just had to find Brett and say, Brett, how many of these would you be willing to buy?
Right.
I only need 20 grand from you. By the time 3-6 months, I got someone else that could buy it from me for 40 grand.
Yeah.
And once I did that, that just started to like set off like a wildfire where I had intermediaries, I had my mortgage guys selling these plots. And that was really our business. When it came to the stage where the homes were finished, I bought a lot of them. But what I would say to you, Brett, is that when you buy them, within 30 days, your tenant would be in there. The home would look exactly like the showroom. So I'd kit it out like what we have here, furniture, the whole thing. Tenants would be in there and I'll give you guaranteed rent for 2 to 5 years. And I would take that out of my commission or that spread that I would actually get and basically give them the guaranteed rent. And I'll probably do Airbnb, which I didn't even know that was a thing then. That was before Airbnb started.
Yeah.
But I figured out everything I bought, I usually bought it next to a hospital, a nursing home, anywhere there was like prime jobs, that's where I basically invest in. And I just figured out that doctors needed short-term accommodation for 3 months, and that's what I went into.
Nice.
Yeah. So accidental, but just figuring it out when it's basically happening.
You just keep moving. I mean, that's what we were talking about earlier is just, it's just action. It's like you can't sit still, and if something's not going the right way, you just keep, you hit a wall and then you spin around it and go the other way. So from there, is that the world of real estate? Is that when like, when did you come over to the States?
That's when it just started.
Yeah.
So this is where 2005 or 2003 up to 2008, my life was just, I'll be here with you today, and then tomorrow I'm in Brazil.
Yep.
Another day I'm in Malta. So my clients were finding me from all over the world. I'd have people in Africa, people just like, Mr. Bailey, I heard that you do investments. And I'm like, no, I don't. I don't know who you are. And they're like, well, yeah, you've done financing for my rabbi, or you've done this for my pastor. And they would find me through the organizations because all of my business came from referral, through accountants, attorneys. If you didn't come through a referral source, we wouldn't touch you.
Yeah.
So what we did is built up boiler room operations where we found good salespeople. So we wanted to find the guys that sold photocopiers. We liked them in regards to that's a hard sell. So when they're selling real estate, it was easier for them.
Right.
Car dealership guys, they loved it. It was just an easy product for them to learn. We gave them a list. It was just basically like, oh God, the wolf of real estate.
Yeah.
That's how I mimicked my whole operation. That's what it was like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was crazy. 24 hours, it was like a cult, if I be honest. We will go from work to the nightclub, back to the office at 2 o'clock in the morning. And it was just like, we were young guys. We were just kind of doing what we had to do.
Yep.
So it was fun. And all I basically did is just make sure, cultivated people, but found people that were A-class players.
Yep.
So everybody around me had to be smarter than me. That was my requirement. If you're not smarter than me, then you can't be here.
Yeah.
There has to be something that you can teach me. So that was my whole job. But where it really kicked off is I started struggling with my health because life was crazy. Single guy. Well, I had a girlfriend at the time, but it was like single type guy. I'm not sleeping. I got the files in my bed. I'm cranking out like 500 homes here, 100 homes here. And I remember every Friday I was in hospital. Yeah. Chest problems, anxiety, ECGs, all that kind of stuff. And then my mother looks at me and says, what are you doing? What is this? What are you doing? I remember telling her, if I stop, Mom, I'm going to be dead. I'm on a treadmill. I got to keep on going. And all it was, my business coach at the time was saying to me, Darrell, I wanted to become a lender. So what it was is that they said, Darrell, you have to have 20 mil liquid. And I was getting anxiety and chest pains in my 20s because I couldn't get any further than 4 mil.
Yeah.
So we were hustling day and night, but we can't get over 4 mil. And I was like having like a nervous breakdown when I have to spend 100 grand or 50 grand because I was like, I need to get to this number. And what I did in that time, I realized the importance of skills, training, personal development, where you could be a great salesman, but if you don't have people that are 10, 5 years ahead of you to be able to show you the next systems, you're just going to be a hamster just running around.
Right.
And that's really what I learned through that process where when my health failed, I just said to my younger brother that, look, I'm going to Jamaica for 6 weeks. I'll be back soon. And I remember calling him after the 4th week and saying, everyone here is happy and they have less money than me. And he said to me, when are you coming back? I said, I'm not. Throw the keys for the letterbox, give the guys some money to keep on going. I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
And I stayed there for 2 years.
Nice.
So I went there with a suitcase. From Jamaica, I came to America, so I was traveling back and forth. I was going to all the Caribbean islands, and I really just took a time to reflect of, I wasn't happy chasing the money. That wasn't fulfilling. The sales team and the journey is more exciting than sometimes a destination.
Yeah.
And when everyone explained to me, Darrell, shut your business down, your health, I went into a small depression.
Yeah.
I should have never shut it down.
Yeah.
So I was basically trying to sell my portfolio, which when I think about now, it took me over 5 years to sell, which I thought, throw it all on the market, just get it done. And what I learned, so many mistakes, or not just mistakes, learned how difficult it is for salespeople as agents when you're dealing with volumes of properties. And even myself as an investor, my attitude towards things was wrong because I thought, you should be able to get rid of it. I'm going to give everyone a 20% discount. It's gone. And it wasn't.
Right.
So I learned, once again, systems, processes, the way you go about it, the hard way.
Right.
So coming to America, while I was out in Jamaica, my wife, who is now my wife now, I went to high school with her in Jamaica when I was between the age of 12 to 17. I was just on Facebook for the first time and my life was so busy I didn't even have time for that technology. She said hi, didn't know who she was. I remember, you was the one that got away when I was at school. I remember who you are. She said she'll come over from America, so she lived in Boston at the time. And she transformed my whole world. She helped me to put myself back together in regards to saying, hey, Darrell, you didn't do anything wrong. You did the way you went about doing so. Yeah. So came to America, started off in Boston, didn't like it. It reminds me of the UK. And I thought, if I'm coming to America, I want to come to America. I want to see what America looks like. So Boston, Massachusetts is modeled off European cities. It's just so freaky how it looks. Parts of it looks like Canary Wharf in London, but coming here, even though I bought hundreds of homes, I sold hundreds of homes. When I came here to buy my first home, it was so difficult. Yeah. It was literally nearly impossible. That challenge that I had in my 20s where just rejection. One, I couldn't find an agent that would just wants to do business with me. It was like if they picked up their phone, and when they did pick up their phone, there was no education of, I want to do whatever you tell me to do, Brett. Go and tell me what to do and I'll do it. And it was like, well, I'll give you a call back when I come back from yoga. And if you're worthy, they'll take me to a property. And I kept on trying to figure out what is so difficult. If I've got the cash and whatever you tell me what to do, what is the process? Right. So once again, I had to go and get a real estate license. Didn't really know the whole process. Got myself a real estate license. And that's how I started the business. Yep. And even though, like I said, I felt I knew some stuff, I know the challenge that new agents go through in regards to the time when you're passionate about swiping your card to do your exams, going through school, starting, there's so much stumbling blocks and lack of educational support. And this is why you guys are great at what you do, that I wasted probably 2 to 3 years just trying to figure out. I remember calling, doing YouTube to figure out how to write my first contract. Right. So it's crazy because ironically, I started off at Wycott, which I went there for the training at university. My first mentor was Jeffrey Kiss, so that's where I started off in Montclair. Jeffrey taught me, what Jeffrey did, which was good, he taught me compliance.
Right.
Not sales, compliance.
Yep.
So we have something in common where he doesn't like paper, and I'm like, great, I like to have a paperless office. But the sales part, I just couldn't get any training. How do I get business?
Right.
So it took me many years to figure it out. I jumped from Wycott. I went to all of the franchise big brands. I went to Century 21. Then went to Coldwell Bank, not Coldwell, KW for 90 days. And then when Jeff went to EXP, I was one of the first, I think the first 200 or first 1,000 that went there when EXP was just something that they were just talking about in a concept. But I've seen a similar model prior to coming to America, so I already knew what the whole virtual world was.
Right.
And I just jumped in just for that. I was like, if it's going to be technology, digital real estate, which I'll talk about another day. But that's really how I joined EXP the first time.
Nice. Now
you want me to keep on going?
No, now you're coming back. So I want to, what I think is really interesting is when you and I were meeting probably 3 months ago, you said something to me, and I know it's true, like I didn't even question it, but you said something to me that really stuck with me. And you said, when it comes to the world of, wholesaling, investment properties, sourcing deals, when you go to one of these Vegas conferences, these guys are light years ahead of what realtors are doing. And we're watching it right now. We're one of the only 5 in New Jersey, and then one of 40 in the United States that got onto Zillow, the Zillow seller program. So what they're doing is they have Open Door on there. Zillow now essentially has a cash offer script. And it was interesting when they flipped on the lead source about 2 weeks ago for us, it just hit. It just started going, and they're coming through. And I thought that was interesting. A lot of times there's a ramp up to a lead period. And it's just like you're talking about how the consumer, there was data obviously around it, and they knew the consumer was going to do that. I know the world is transforming. I know that the way that deals are sourced, we're still your cold call style. Like, you got to pick up the phone at the end of the day. You need to be having conversations with people. But these funnels, the skip tracing, what we're talking about, it's wild. And I'm watching things being built right now with AI through Go High Level and these crazy connections where, if you were a realtor just starting out, and we can get to the point where we're handing you a qualified seller that's actually saying, hey, I need to get $550 for my home and I need to get out of it like now. That's, something along the lines of what, that world, right? You know how to build those things, and that's interesting.
So here's the thing. When I came to America, I was so excited about the whole idealism of America, of the right to ownership. And I came here buzzing, but the key thing that I struggled with were America's behind with technology.
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand that because in Europe, all the products that we were using, Cisco comes from San Francisco, main equipment comes from America. But when I came here, the infrastructure where I saw that not having a terabyte in your home, which is just kind of standard, how different things work. So COVID is probably the best thing. I know people may not agree with this, but COVID is probably the best thing that's happened to America. Now your grandmother knows how to use Zoom.
Yep.
Before, it was something that it's brought America probably a decade ahead that people not thought about.
Yeah.
So whatever business that you're in a technology business. As European, we're lazy people. We if you cannot get something via your app, we're not doing it. Right. So if you want to date, it's an app. If you want to get a beer, it's an app. So when I came here and I couldn't do everything via app, I was like, why can I not get food? Because it's a small country, everything's done technology-wise. What COVID has done is basically not just for real estate, all businesses. If you sell pizza, you're in the technology business. If you don't have that component, you're leaving money on the table and you're going to probably be extinct.
Yep.
So this is where with real estate, it's really, if you look at the different asset classes, which doesn't matter what people say, it's still secure asset class, trillions of dollars, where from a technology point of view, there's so much opportunity there.
Yep.
So For individuals that do not understand technology, is the people that have the tools, systems, and technology are going to win.
Right.
Your customer is more savvy than many of us real estate individuals because they now have tools to vet what you're saying.
Right.
Whereas in the past, they would like just take your word for it. But now the consumer is highly technical and they understand drip campaigns. They never want to be on a drip anymore. Whereas before, you could get away with that.
Right.
They know when they're speaking to a bot where like we thought, yeah, make some spelling mistakes and they won't figure out. We're more savvy now because of COVID.
Right.
So one, you got to be highly skilled on technology, but we're going back to the old school where relational business and being able to pair those two worlds, because if you don't, the consumer's savvy that it can see straight through that.
Yeah.
So that's really where like we're at a stage where no one wants to wait for 10 minutes to be responded to. If you can't respond to me straight away, I'll call someone else.
Right.
Yeah. And that's really where the opportunities are. So when I talk about investments wholesaling, and like I had a question asked to me recently that when is a good time to buy real estate? What is happening in the investment world? And I say to people that every time is the best time to buy real estate.
Yep.
It just really depends on your strategy, on how you look at things. I only buy distressed assets. There's going to be someone in the world right now or in New Jersey that has a financial situation. I've been in that situation where I had to sell a car or a house and I just need the money today.
Yep.
You just have to be ready to be able to execute.
Right.
So when I came here, I follow and I tracked data where when I saw that New Jersey was one of the highest foreclosure states in America, I was like, why? And I went through this journey of actually going to Rutgers University to research this stuff to say, what happened in the crash? Why was New Jersey one of the top foreclosure states? Why is this happening in certain particular zip codes area? And that's how I followed the data, where I started off in Montclair and I came out of Montclair, and that's how I went to Union, Essex and other areas because it was high foreclosure numbers. And then I was able to see that as an investor, you just have to get very savvy in regards to what your technique is.
Yep.
So everyone is like a sport. Everyone has a different sport. No one's wrong. It's up to you how you handle your bat. Different people do it different ways, but you have to figure out what your strategy is. So some people, it was a hold. Everyone wants to buy and hold and cash flow. That's what I thought about doing in my 20s. I hated it. Yeah. I hate being a landlord. I'm like, I'm a landlord from hell, because if you owe me money, I get really personal. So I was self-managing around about 300 homes, and it was the most depressing. Every phone call was I have to pay for something. It was a horrible experience. People would look at me and say, hey, you're doing very well. I hated it.
Yeah.
Because I'm making $200, $300 off each home. And yes, collectively it's good, but it's the staff, it's the office, it's the infrastructure, it's the overheads, all the stuff that people don't look at. And I hated it. So when I came here, I buy rentals, but it has to make sense. I like to get my cash up front. I got a mindset, Brett, that I don't know if I'm going to live to see tomorrow. Right. I got to figure out, I want to make sure that if anything happens to my kids or family are okay. So this is where I built a machine of how do I do renovations without going to the property.
Right.
So this is what I'm getting better at perfecting in regards to what is this system where I can track my numbers, go into an area, and as long as I can see there's a consistent pipeline that I can do business within 24 months, I will penetrate that zip code. And what we do is just move our crews along to be able to do that. So at first, I kind of hid it from my clients or customers. It was just like a secret. I wouldn't tell anyone about it. And then I realized that investors needed that form of one, training.
Yeah.
Two, a lot of people that I'm coaching and training are realtors. They needed to understand the language of investment because there's a different language. As an investor, I don't even want you to tell me good morning. Just tell me the deal or the number. Don't tell me about a swimming pool. Just tell me the numbers. So you got to talk to me in the language where I understand. And if you don't, we check out very quickly, depending on what type of investor you are. So now you got to look at what game you're in, whether you're going to fix and flip, are you going to hold, are you going to do Airbnb, are you going to do traveling nurses? There's so many different strategies. Some people only invest out of state because they want lower prices. You got to figure out what's good for you.
Yep.
What I figured out was good for me is that I used to buy homes 2 hours away from me because my mindset wasn't strong enough to say, Darrell, it's about the numbers. I used to always buy and say, I want to buy houses for 60, 100 grand, 200,000 and have to drive 2 hours when there's a problem. And that was really a mindset where I didn't have enough education to understand what my strategy was. So what I've done for the last 10 years is really not buy as much as I used to, but understand the information, the strategy to be able to execute, because my medium-term goal is to build up my private equity company. So that's really, I need to know how to do that. I need to learn my performers. I need to scale. What is it like being an operator, acquisition teams? What does that look like and how do you do that? So that's basically what I've been doing for the last 10 years in the US. More, all this stuff for houses I'm selling, the way I see it is market research.
Yeah.
That's what I've been doing so far.
I love it. And I know we're coming up on time too. So I want to, one of the things that's great about you is you're already adding value to both the consumer, you're adding value to the realtor on the investment side of things. You talk about, what is that buy box? What are people looking, how do you identify that? And it reminds me of, I've had clients reach out and they say, Brett, I want to buy an investment property in Hoboken or Jersey City. And I say, great, what are you looking for? Something that makes sense. Great, what makes sense? And really being able to dial that in. And I know that, again, for the realtors to be educated and trained to be able to have that conversation with confidence behind, that, and then also being able to really help the consumer understand exactly what it is they're looking for and why. For me, I've bought this stuff for super cheap. I've done the flips. I've done everything that you're, not as much as you're talking about, but I've done a little bit of I've built new construction. And what I found looking back, had I just stuck with that like class A, buying the more expensive stuff back in 2010, I'd have a higher net worth right now. And I'm running around to get, it's like the $4 million you mentioned So with that, I mean, what's a great way for people to get in touch with you and start to experience what you're doing for investors and for realtors?
So I'm understanding, even now as I'm involved in how the power of social media hasn't even started, whereby that's where people want to start their business.
Right.
When I started doing deals in COVID without talking to the client, doing the whole transaction through Instagram, my life changed. So how you get hold of me is really social media, Darrell Michael Bailey or Darrell Bailey Real Estate for my team. But backtracking in regards to investors, well, how do you start? So let me talk about the agent quickly. As an agent, I believe that all agents should at least own their own home, but understand that your first home is your biggest liability. So you have to buy the second home as soon as possible to pay for that. That education will make you a better agent when you're speaking to people. How we approach things as a business is that when the investor speaks to us, we say, what problem are we trying to solve, Brett? Let's start with there and talk about your purpose. Let's get the mindset done first, because if we don't get the mindset and the clear form of execution of what you're trying to achieve, we could show you homes for a million years, you're not buying. Because we're not very clear on your vision, not my vision, and how you want to map things out. So that's basically how we go about things. We do investment tours every week on a Thursday and Sunday. I'm a visual person, I want to see stuff. All the stuff that I couldn't get from other companies, agents we're currently doing right now. We have had more success than a lot of people in regards to sourcing off-market homes, investors, homeowners, because they know we do tours. It's like an open house. We roll through like 20 people, and so we get access to a lot of inventory. What we're doing right now is that we understand that we get access to more off-market homes than other agents. Our clients pay us fees not upfront, but buyer agency fees to do business with us, whereas other agents don't like doing so. But we understand if you want to be exclusive, you have to pay a premium, but we make sure it's worthwhile for our client. Right. So if we're going to make our client money, he doesn't even worry about our fees because the numbers make sense. So what we're trying to do now is systemize that, get some very good people. So this is where Brett comes in and his team, where I want to talk about how fantastic this core group has been for years. I've been watching Brett since 2018, 19. I joined Keller Williams for 90 days. And then you left the DeVoe Group and you guys left Keller Williams the week I went to Keller Williams. Then I went back to EXP and I joined the DeVoe Group for about 90 days with Sekou. And I've seen how culturally, how you guys have built things as systems, being agent focused, because I've been around other teams, it's not like that. But what I like about what Brett has done, and I respect what you've done, where you've kept your head down, focused, and done the work. Whereas a lot of people are making noises and they haven't done any production and they haven't done the work.
Right.
I respect good work ethic. I like consistency. The people that show up every time consistent, and that's what you've been able to achieve, where you've got really, your agents are really impressive in regards to your agent attraction. And I like that you think about the business as an operator, whereas many people there, it's one dimensional. I'm going to be a realtor for the rest of my life, which there's nothing wrong with that. But you have to understand we run a real estate business and not many of us want to be operators.
Right.
So I got to commend you for that in regards to the success that you've achieved. But I actually made that bet on you before you even knew that. Like when I was at the DeVoe Group, I pointed you out and I said, that guy. And they're like, you don't even know him. And I'm like, that guy, he's the guy. All right, so everybody was telling me Dave DeVoe and what's it, Kindle? Was it, what's the guy? Honey Badger, Jay Kinder. I was like, no, it's that guy.
I appreciate that.
So I made that bet back when Sekou was coaching me because I saw a level of focus, and that's the stuff that I'm good at. Like pointing out, I can point out the people in the room that are focused and willing to do the work.
Awesome. Well, dude, I'm looking forward to having a lot of fun with you. I think we're going to do a lot of fun things together. This is just the beginning, and I know that what we have brewing right now is going to be something very powerful. So if you guys need to get in touch with Darrell Bailey, find him on social media. He's definitely good at making noise there. And once you're in his world, you'll see why I like him.
I want to say one last thing if I can, Brett.
Yep.
Jennifer Swift.
Yeah.
I told her every time I come on the mic, she is a phenomenal person. I spotted that the second I kind of saw her, and she's so impressive in regards to systems, understanding it, getting it from investment, retail, that she's a phenomenal force where like I just really want to commend her as well, both of you guys, to say that you've made it, just giving me a different leaf of life, refreshing.
Yeah.
So I just want to commend you guys for that.
Yeah, I couldn't do what I do without her, behind the scenes time. There a lot of what we do is a logistical nightmare, and she does a fantastic job of organizing that, separating things, quarterbacking the whole thing. So you and I can do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So cool. No, Jen's fantastic, and we have a lot of other fantastic folks behind us. So guys, I really appreciate you tuning in. Give Darrell Bailey a shout, and he'll welcome you to his world.